Since that embarrassing loss, 28-point loss at home to the Pelicans. They were booed by the fans, and they start a very difficult stretch now. Tonight, Luka and company in town, 10 Eastern tip. They also play the Clippers on Thursday, host the Warriors Saturday. All those games without Anthony Davis, who's at least 3 weeks away from returning from that foot sprain. So they're facing a scenario that, again, it seemed unimaginable before the beginning of the season, even the first couple months, which is the potential of missing the playoffs altogether. Entering tonight, LeBron and company only 2.5 games ahead of that final playoff spot in the West. And a reminder, the 7 through 10 seeds are the ones that get in to that play-in tournament. So, the team does not have an easy road ahead. According to our ESPN BPI, Lakers have the hardest remaining schedule in the entire league. Compared that to the games that they've already played, which ranks the 8th easiest. Pack your bags, too, because 14 of their 22 remaining games are going to be on the road. That includes a couple of really, really tough games. Again, we talked about the hardest schedule, but the tough games coming up. Phoenix, 2 times. Also game in Golden State, trips to Denver and Utah. Lakers just 9 and 18 on the road. And BPI predicts the Lakers to win only 4 of the remaining 22 games. They're as follows: 2 against Washington, a road game in Houston, and finally a home game against the Thunder. But that is it, just 4 that they are expected to win of the 22, Matt.
And our Dave McMenamin, Lakers reporter, gets a front row seat to all of it. He joins us now on SportsCenter. Dave, this might sound like a funny question. They were booed off the floor. They were blown out by the Pelicans. So give me the mood of this team after that loss to the Pelicans.
Yeah, Matt, the boos started in the first half. They got really loud in the third quarter, and they probably would have been even louder in the fourth, except half the fans left early because they were done with watching that terrible performance by their team. I asked LeBron, what's it going to take for them to get off of this slide? And he said, we just got to get one win, kind of clear the air, change up the energy. But then almost in the next breath, as Sage just mentioned, he talked about the upcoming games. Dallas is tough. And the Clippers are tough, and the Warriors are tough. And, oh, by the way, the rest of the month of March, they played 10 road games. And so it doesn't get any easier for this group. Russell Westbrook said perhaps the most disturbing thing after the game. He said, opposing teams, they have a scattering report on us. It's just play hard, because they don't play hard enough, they being the Lakers, and you can beat them that way. That's a terrible sign for where this team's at.
Yeah, and look, we're late in the game in terms of making any moves, but compared to where they are, what are the Lakers' roster plans now moving forward?
Yeah, Deandre Jordan's final send-off as a Laker will be that three-quarters court pass. He sailed out of bounds the other night against the Pelicans. The Lakers plan to waive Jordan, the center, who actually started 19 games early on in the season. That seems like a lifetime ago, but had fallen out of the rotation. They plan to pick up veteran point guard DJ Augustin, who spent about half the season this year with the Houston Rockets. It will be Augustin's 11th team he's played for in the 14 years he's been in the NBA. But ever since the Lakers parted with Rajon Rondo a couple months ago, they haven't really had a steady backup point guard. That doesn't solve all the issues, but certainly Augustin is someone who could help this group.
Lakers currently 9th in the Western Conference. They need all the help they can get to take on the Mavs tonight. Dave McMenamin will be there. Dave, thank you.
Morant blows by Primo. That's the best dunk of Morant's career. Adams going long. Morant. Ja Morant, insanity.
Ja Morant might have just cemented his face on the Grizzlies' Mount Rushmore with his performance against the Spurs. The young superstar is off to a great second half of the season, but in his latest jaw-dropping performance, was that enough to put him in the MVP consideration? Here's First Take's Last Take.
Ja Morant is definitely in the discussion. He's right there. It's a race to the finish line. These last few weeks are going to tell it to us. You know who you can call Ja Morant right now, ladies and gentlemen? You can call him Kevin Durant. Ja Morant was the number 2 overall pick. Like Kevin Durant, he's going to be the guy we're talking about. Well, Zion Williamson, number 1 overall pick. Who's number 2? Ja Morant. And as the number 2 overall pick, who had a number 1 overall pick that was perpetually injured, okay, Ja Morant and Kevin Durant's careers are actually mirroring one another because of where they were drafted, who was drafted before them, in terms of the perpetual injuries and what they are doing on the basketball court.
The MVP in the league for me right now, at this moment, in this fluid conversation, would be one Ja Morant. And I think all of the names that you rattled off are incredible, and it is absolutely going to be a race to the finish, photo finish. Who can lean their head forward and their nose touch that ribbon first?
I haven't heard you talk about Ja Morant. I didn't see you bring him up. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to hold that against you, though.
Because you was out.
I didn't hear you bring him up. I didn't hear you bring him up. I know I brought him up, but here's the deal. So I'm not taking anything away from Ja Morant. He might end up winning this. Certainly from a box office attraction, you can put him up there as number one, even ahead of Embiid, Jokic, and DeMar DeRozan. Ja Morant is box office. That is something that we got to pay attention to.
Through most of the season, I think that DeMar DeRozan has probably been the leader in the clubhouse for MVP. But at this moment on this show, on this day, this answer is subject to change. I'm going with Ja.
You know what? How about that? Through the defense didn't matter.
Was it at noon Eastern TV time?
It was.
Here against Marquette. Oh, boy. By the way, we were told Morant's MVP odds have dropped from 16-1 to 12-1, which is impressive, like that dunk was when he was at Murray State. When he was in the tournament is when people really started catching notice this kid can play hoops.
Yeah, because at Murray State, you're not getting that publicity, but he made us talk about him. This is in the NBA in 2019. Drives the lane, throwing it down. One hand over the big man, Aaron Baines, as he falls away, too. That was December 11th, 2019, and he was just getting going.
Here's how you know you're good, when a near dunk is one of your best highlights. December 20th, 2019. Just the fact that he had the look to do something like that.
You're right. Usually we don't agree with this to be in kind of a top moment thing, but...
Dropping moment, that is, a few minutes later catching a pass. Look at this, the length of the court from Steven Adams, and he beat the buzzer beater, at least the first half buzzer. And Ja finished with a career-high 52 points. It's the most in a single game in Grizzlies history. He talked about this record-setting night following the game.
I ain't gonna lie. I don't know if I can talk about that right now, man. My head all over the place. I felt like, a little bit of pressure. It's like, man, you here now. You got to get it. And as I got close, they told me to, go ahead and go get it. So that's why y'all see every time they got the ball, they was looking for 12.
2001 NBA MVP Allen Iverson weighed in on Ja last night, tweeting a picture of the Memphis Stars jersey on his, that's AI's, MVP trophy with the caption, quote, "sooner or later." Joined now by ESPN NBA analyst Tim Legler. And Legs, Ja's odds for MVP. And I've been talking about this all year. If he closes strong, he can be in that MVP conversation. Oh, you're crazy. Not so crazy. From 16-1, one day later, 12-1. Where do you have Ja on your MVP list?
I have him third right now, Max, and he's closing quickly on Joel Embiid. And I got Nikola Jokic in between the two of them. I look at Embiid. I think it's his award to lose right now. He's just been the most dominant offensive player in this league for the last 3 months, really. And Philadelphia now continues to climb in the East. I mean, who knows what their ultimate ceiling is now that they added James Harden. And will James Harden's presence actually hurt his ability to get the award? I hope not, because I think he's going to put up similar numbers to what he has all year. But I have Embiid in the lead. I have Jokic in second because, look, he's played only 9 games all year with his next two best players. Jamal Murray hasn't played at all. Michael Porter's played 9 games. And yet you look up and Denver is relevant in the West, and he's got basically identical numbers to a year ago when he was the MVP. So how is that guy not in the discussion? He's got to be there. But now here comes Ja Morant, and he is closing quickly on both of those guys. And the week that he just had, if he continues to have these signature pound the gavel moments, he is going to potentially get into just an absolute dead heat with both of those guys and potentially win it this year. This is the time of year, Max, when guys make up their mind. People make up their mind who are voting. Things are stamped in your head when you watch it every night on TV and you see some of these performances this week. Ja Morant absolutely in the discussion now.
Legs, I think you could also put Giannis third. I would have Ja probably fourth, but it's really closing the gap. And it occurs to me, Joel Embiid is a 7-footer. Jokic is a legit center. Giannis is really a center, a power forward at worst, right? A 7-footer type. And then there's little Ja Morant, scraping maybe 6'3". Legs, there have been players like Allen Iverson who've won MVPs as short guys. Steph Curry, who's been the best player on a championship team as a shorter guy, 6'3"-ish, right? But neither one of those guys were ever considered the best player in the world, perennially. That was Shaq back, or Kobe, or Duncan in AI's day, right? With Steph, it was LeBron. And then KD, when Steph were on the same team, KD was clearly better because they're bigger. I say Ja Morant has a chance to be the best player in basketball, the first player ever at his size to really hold that distinction, maybe also on a championship team. What do you say to that?
I do not think that's a crazy statement at all. When you look at his ascension,